Hi Rockets! Today we're going to read a story about a special cold weather item of clothing. Today we are going to read The Mitten, adapted and illustrated by Jan Brett. In this story, The Mitten, we'll read about a little boy named Nicky who receives a new pair of mittens knitted by his grandmother, or his baba. As we read, I'll ask some questions which will help us understand what's happening in the story. Maybe you're already understanding something that might happen by looking at the cover of the book. Let's open it up. Find out more. The Mitten, a Ukrainian folktale adapted and illustrated by Jan Brett. Once there was a boy named Nicky who wanted his new mittens made from wool as white as snow. Wool is a material that's used to make really warm clothing, maybe sweaters, maybe socks, maybe mittens or hats. At first, his grandmother, Baba, did not want to knit white mittens. If you drop one in the snow, she warned, you'll never find it. I wonder what she means by that. If Nicky drops a white mitten on all this white snow, why would it be hard for him to find? I know. White mitten on white snow will be hard to see. It will blend in, unlike maybe his red hat, which shows up really brightly on the white background. So Baba doesn't want to knit his new mittens out of white wool. Let's see if she will do it anyway. Nicky wanted snow white mittens so bad, and finally, Baba made them. So even though she really didn't want to knit white mittens for him, because he might lose them, she did it anyway. Our grown-ups do that for us sometimes for something that we really, really want, because they want to make us happy. After she finished, she said, "When you come home, first I will look to see if you're safe and sound, but then I will look to see if you have your snow white mittens." So when he gets back from playing, she's going to look to see if she was right. Is he going to lose them? Or if he still has his mittens with him. So off Nicky went, and it wasn't long until one of his new mittens dropped in the snow and was left behind. So you have to look really closely to see that the mitten is here on the snow. Do you think Nicky will notice? I see he has his other mitten here on his belt. He looks pretty busy playing. Let's see if he notices. Nope. Didn't notice. A mole, tired from tunneling along, discovered the mitten. So Nicky hasn't found the mitten, but an animal has. The mole burrowed or crawled inside. It was cozy and warm and just the right size, so he decided to stay. A snowshoe rabbit came hopping by. He stopped for a moment to admire his winter coat. It was then that he saw the mitten, and he wiggled in, feet first. The mole didn't think there was room for both of them. Remember, the mitten was just the right size for this little mole. But when he saw the rabbit's big kickers, his big feet, he moved over. I think the mole didn't want to get kicked by the rabbit, so he decided he would let them in. I feel surprised that they could both fit inside the mitten. Next, a hedgehog came snuffling along. Having spent the day looking under wet leaves for things to eat, he decided to move into the mitten and warm himself. The mole and the rabbit were bumped and jostled. It's getting crowded inside the mitten. But not being one to argue with someone covered with prickles, they made room. So just like the mole didn't want to get kicked by the rabbit, now the mole and the rabbit don't want to get poked by the hedgehog. What do you think will happen next? Maybe you're spying a clue. I'm noticing another animal right here. As soon as the hedgehog disappeared into the mitten, a big owl, attracted by the commotion or the noise, swooped down. When he decided to move in also, the mole, the rabbit, and the hedgehog grumbled. Oh, they don't want him to get in too. It's getting super crowded. But when they saw the owl's glinty talons, they quickly let him in. So far, 1, 2, 3, 4 animals have found the mitten, but Nicky hasn't even noticed that it's gone. He's still playing. Only 1 mitten on his belt. Let's see what happens next. Up through the snow appeared a badger. He eyed the mitten and began to climb in. The mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, and the owl were not pleased. There was no room left. But when they saw his diggers, they gave him the thumb. I think they didn't want to get scratched by the badger's diggers. Are you noticing a clue about what happens next? It started snowing, but the animals were snug in the mitten. A waft of warm steam rose in the air, and a fox trotting by stopped to investigate. So the fox stopped to check this out. He must have seen it and thought, what is that thing? And why is it so warm? Just the sight of the cozy mitten made him feel drowsy or sleepy. The fox poked his muzzle in. With the mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, the owl, and the badger, when they saw his shiny teeth, they gave the fox lots of room. Wow, I'm noticing that the mitten has gotten really, really, really big. And now with the fox inside, it's gonna get even bigger. I noticed that every time a new animal came along, it was bigger than the one that came before. Do you think this bear will fit inside the mitten? Let's see. A great bear lumbered by. He spied the mitten all plumped up. Not being one to be left out in the cold, he began to nose his way in. I cannot believe the bear is going to try to get in. He's enormous. The mitten is already stretched out so much with all the other animals inside. Do you think he'll fit? Let's see. The animals were packed in as tightly as could be. But what animal would argue with a bear? That's true. He's the biggest one after all. He has sharp teeth and sharp claws. I bet he's super strong. I wouldn't want to argue with a bear if I were them either. The mitten swelled and stretched and bulged to many times its original size. It's way bigger than it was at the beginning of the story. But Baba's good knitting held fast. So Baba's knitting, it didn't break, even with the bear inside. I can't believe it. Along came a meadow mouse, no bigger than an acorn. She wriggled into the one space left and made herself comfortable on top of the great bear's nose. The mouse is really small. A lot of other big animals fit inside. I wonder if the mouse getting inside will be okay. Take a look at Nicky's face here. All of these animals have found his mitten. And now I see he's looking at the mitten that was back on his belt. I wonder if his hands finally got cold. What does he look like he's thinking? Yeah, maybe he's thinking, oh, I only have one mitten. Where is my other mitten? But he doesn't know all of these animals are inside, stretching out his mitten. Let's see what he does. The bear, tickled by the mouse's whiskers, gave an enormous sneeze. Ha-choo! The force of the sneeze shot the mitten up into the air and scattered the animals in all directions. So even though all the animals were able to fit when the bear sneezed, the mitten sort of exploded and the animals went everywhere into the snow. Nicky's still looking for his mitten. Up on the hill, running back down. I wonder if he'll find it now that all the animals are outside. On his way home, Nicky saw a white shape in the distance. It was the lost mitten, silhouetted against the blue sky. So remember at the beginning of the story, Nicky's Baba said, if you lose your white mitten in the white snow, you'll never find it. Remember, it was really hard to see because it was blending in. But now that the mitten is in front of the blue sky, Nicky can see it. White on white, it was really hard to see, but white on blue, we can see the outline or the silhouette. As he ran to catch his snow white mitten, he saw Baba's face in the window. First, she looked to see if he was safe and sound, and then she saw that he still had his mittens. So he made it back home with both his mittens. But Baba doesn't know what happened in between while Nicky was gone. She doesn't know about all those animals that were inside the mitten. So Nicky goes back in, but what is Baba noticing about the mittens? Yeah, look how they're different. One is really big and one is really small. What happened to make this mitten big, even though this one stayed small? Yeah, all the animals climbed inside and stretched it out. Baba must be thinking, what's going on here? Why is one of these mittens so big and the other one's just as small as when Nicky went out to play? She must be feeling pretty confused. I don't guess they'll ever know what happened to the mitten, how the animals crawled inside, but we do. We got to read and see how 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 animals crawled inside that mitten, and even though it got really stretched out, it didn't break. I'm glad Nicky found his mitten again in the end, though. I hope you enjoyed this story, The Mitten by Jan Brett. We might get some snow this week, so maybe you'll also be bundling up with some special cold weather clothes. I hope you keep good track of them. Rockets, I will see you next time. Bye.